Good morning. Welcome to Exploring Economic Development with MEDC. I'm Meredith Harris, and I am joined this morning by my co-host, Jillian Roberts.
Hello.
Good morning.
It's another Wednesday. Time to do another podcast.
It's great to see you.
Great to see you, Meredith.
Yeah. We are here for episode 46.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
45 was awesome. We had Maurice Phelan in from Sartorius to talk about all things life sciences in Marlborough, all the wonderful things that they have going on at Sartorius over on Donald Lynch Boulevard, Lock Drive. They have, 4 different locations here in Marlborough. So that was really...
he chose Marlborough, and he's also one of our board members.
Right. It was a really cool conversation.
Awesome.
Talked a little bit about the TIF process and how they came into Marlborough, how they got interested in the city, and how important it was, the role that the city played in bringing them here. So that was really cool.
It was nice.
So if you missed it, make sure you check it out.
Check it out.
Check it out. It was a good one.
We are streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and also our local cable access channel, WMCT TV. Doing a great job.
Yeah.
Love them.
Shout out to Mike Lawton.
That's right.
Yeah, who is celebrating 15 years this week with WMCT, but I think he's got a few more under his belt. Yeah. I think there's like 3 or 4 more, so it's more like 18 years with WMCT.
He's been here for 30 years.
30 years.
It's probably closer to 20. Yeah, don't age him. He started as a 10-year-old.
That's right.
No, but congratulations to Mike.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
So without further ado, do we want to jump right into episode 46?
I think we should, but beforehand, if you have any questions for us, our contact information is below. We'll also put it in our Spotify details. So if you've got any guests that you'd like us to interview, if you have questions about the city of Marlborough or anything else, you can just reach out to us.
Yeah.
Love to hear from you.
Yep. So this is an exciting one. It's actually a very relevant topic that I'm sure folks have heard about here in the Commonwealth, but we have a guest with us today that's near and dear to my heart, but Jessica Muradian with the Director of Government Affairs for the Mass Restaurant Association. Good morning, Jess.
Morning, Meredith. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're happy to have you. So we will get into a big topic that's everyone's been talking about. But before we do that, we do really want to talk about the Mass Restaurant Association and kind of what you guys are doing over there. But before we get into that, we'd love to hear just a little bit about you. Can you tell us about yourself, your background? How did you get into the industry? What were you doing before that? Things like that.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for having me here today, ladies. I have been with the Mass Restaurant Association now for about 2 years, a little bit more, and it's been a really great experience. I have been able to really work and find my passion. Prior to this, for working for small businesses, and prior to being at the Mass Restaurant Association, really working, doing their lobbying as the Director of Government Affairs, I was working for the Baker administration over at the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. Most recently as their Chief of Staff, overseeing the Department of Unemployment Assistance.
Which was a big deal a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, the pandemic
made that very interesting.
Made that very interesting. We implemented a program that the legislature had us do, paid family medical leave. Mm-hmm. We oversaw, and the department still oversees workers' compensation, more the court system for workers' compensation for the state, and then a lot of the labor laws.
Right.
So while I was doing all of that, I was able to really work with a lot of the business organizations, the statewide business organizations, during the pandemic. And I really found my love and my passion for helping those smaller businesses. Yeah. And the Restaurant Association is just, they worked so hard during the pandemic. And I really worked with their team a lot to make sure that the restaurant industry in Massachusetts really was going to survive. It was
touch and go for a while there.
The pandemic, right? Yeah. And
who doesn't love restaurants?
I think we all
love restaurants.
Big fan.
Yeah, and I think we all saw during the pandemic, like, that's what we missed, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I would say the one silver lining of the pandemic, if you can even call it that, because we had a pandemic, right, was outdoor dining. Dining. Everybody waited to get back and be able to go out with their family and friends. And we didn't have outdoor dining in Massachusetts, right? We always thought cold, like, even in the summer, you're like, oh, I want to be in the air conditioning. And now
Right.
still people
Yeah.
die to go outside. Yeah.
We do it really well here in Marlborough too. We're talking about like how do we make sure that we continue to implement the same policies, and there's you guys were helping us early on kind of how do we understand what the state's doing versus what the city what we need to do.
Yep.
Yeah, those are all I would agree with you. The one thing that came from COVID that was a good thing, because now you really don't go anywhere that they don't offer it or they don't want to offer it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And cocktails to go. That was another thing.
Who can forget cocktails to go, right?
And you know, the association, we really worked hard to continue that.
Yeah.
So while there is no more beer to go from a restaurant, there are cocktails to go. If the restaurant still wants to do them, they can serve cocktails to go. And we have always had wine to go. Once you order it, you can cork it, which is really good policy, not only for the fact that, you know, a restaurant wants to sell a bottle of wine, but then also like you don't, as a consumer, feel obligated to
drink the whole
finish
thing.
The bottle, right?
Right.
Cork it, bring it home, enjoy it later.
Right.
Right.
Right. And same thing with the cocktails to go. I mean, it's something you'd never really thought of before, but if you're getting a nice meal and you're taking it home and you maybe you don't know how to make a good drink or you don't have the stuff on hand, you can do that. That's really a cool thing.
It's different when the bartender
makes it,
right? When the bartender at Wemmy's or the bartender at Steve Eulis's place, Fireflies, like makes you their special cocktail. You're like,
it feels good.
Oh, I like this. It's
better than anything I can do.
Yeah, it's not what I'm making at home. But you know what?
Right.
We are all pretty smart human beings, right? We know that if we want to go home and just have a vodka soda, we know where our local package store is, and we can go there, and we're not instead buying a vodka soda at a restaurant, right? We're still going to the package store and buying a bottle of vodka there to store in the liquor cabinet and use on those occasions that we need it, right?
I feel like we're getting off track here.
I'm here for it.
I love it. All right, so before COVID, before you were working with labor and workforce, where were you before then, Miss Jessica?
Yeah, I was in the state house.
You were?
Yeah.
You were? I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you worked for a state rep from Ipswich, right?
Yep.
So that's where Jess and I met. I know. Did you know that?
At the state house? Waiting for this picture.
So that was many moons ago. I think maybe 08, 09.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that 20 years ago?
Probably something, a little before that.
Yeah.
So me and Jess go way back, but we have found ways to continue working together through all these years. So that's made it really fun. Yeah. So anyways, now that you're at Mass Restaurant Association, what are you guys? What do you do? I'm sure everybody's heard of the MRA, but what exactly is the MRA in your words?
So the MRA is an association for restaurants, and we make sure that we're kind of doing everything for our members, right? Whether it's advocacy, which is really my goal, and then there's networking events. There's many educational opportunities. We also make sure that you know about grants that you can apply for, or we can help you apply for as well. There's trainings for your workers, whether it's different type of serve safe trainings or alcohol trainings or all that stuff. And a lot of our members come to us really for the cost saving benefits. We have a lot of partners that come to us and are able to offer better prices to our members. So a lot of folks come to us for that. And we also have things like 401k and stuff like that. Yeah, not just for your workforce, but for you as well. Some members don't. So all of these things are things that we incorporate for our members. Yep. And we find that a lot of the members do a lot of the networking opportunities as well, because, you know, a lot of times you're not in competition with one another, you're working together. Right. And they're able to say, you know, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and let's what systems are you using? Who are you using to buy this from, that from, or how can I work together with you to find some cost savings as well? So
we have like a mini version of the MRA in Marlborough called the Marlborough Restaurant Association. So also an MRA. Lindsay Jowrick leads that here for MEDC. And we've found exactly what you're saying. It's not competitive. You know, the folks, we've actually seen where if somebody runs out of, napkins or whatever it is, and hey,
Yeah.
I'm in a pinch, I need this. All of our restaurateurs, they know each other,
Right.
and they're comfortable calling each other to say, hey, I need a hand with this, or hey, I have a problem with bees this spring.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
you guys doing to get rid of the bees, or things like that, where they're able to kind of learn from each other. And
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
huge.
the brewers do that a lot too. And
Yeah.
when we first started bringing the breweries into Marlborough, it was like, well, how many is going to be too many? Should you have 1, 2, 3? And they want more, because
Right.
people will make an evening or an afternoon, if it's a Saturday or Sunday, of, going to
Yeah.
different stops, which is very similar. You'll grab a drink here and then go have dinner there, things like that. Yeah. So I don't think they're
Yeah.
necessarily competitive, but
And a lot of the breweries have also started serving food too.
Right.
So some of them have dual memberships too. They're not just members of the Brewers Guild, but they're
Right.
also members of the MRA. And we work with the Brewers
Together.
Guild a lot too, as well. So
Right.
everyone is just, I think really the pandemic shined a light on how much we can all work together for
Right.
a greater good,
Right,
right? And
right.
how much we can all lean on each other and
Right.
stuff. So
And it's funny you said like outdoor dining, right? Like that's something that I don't think people don't realize that that's something that's like a legislative issue,
right.
right? Like you think you just go to your local restaurant, you can sit outside, but there's a lot more to
Yeah.
it. There's
Yeah.
rules and regulations, and
Yeah.
so obviously that was a priority issue for you guys at one point. What
Yeah.
are some other priorities or other goals that you guys have had, or things you've been able to accomplish?
Yeah, so we'll leave the big topic at hand aside.
Yeah,
for
we'll get to
later,
that one.
But
right.
there's a few big issues in the state that we've really been focusing on. One is the uptick in the use of credit cards and how that affects a business owner. And this isn't just even a restaurant
Right.
issue, but credit card fees have really grown and gotten out of control in the state of Massachusetts.
Really?
It is unclear if a owner can pass that credit card fee on to a consumer.
Okay.
Some people would say because there's a opinion letter by the Division of Banks that says you can. Some people would say you can't. Some people say there's a little bit of a misconception because of the law. So we've been asking for some clarification for some time. Behind that, we don't want to see any business owners get hurt by doing that. But, it's a real cost
Yeah.
to business owners. And furthermore, that whole credit card fee isn't just for restaurants, isn't just on the amount of food that you buy in a restaurant.
Mhm.
If you are, and in Massachusetts, our consumers are super duper kind about tipping. We'll move on to that later. But if you are so inclined to leave a good tip for your server or bartender, the owner is paying the credit card fee not only on what you bought, but also on the tip. And then just to add insult to injury, they're paying it on the taxes as well.
So, all right. So it's not just like a flat fee, it's a
No,
percentage.
It's a percentage, and it's on the entire
Entire
bill.
bill.
So they're paying it on the meals tax.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's
Wow.
a lot. Yeah. So there's some other states do what's known as a vendor tax credit.
Mhm.
Anyone who's taking in money for the state gets a tax credit at the end. That would be a large push, and there are a few bills that would do something to that extent. It's a small amount, but what we would really like to see is some choice out there,
Mhm.
and for people to be able to choose, hey, I will be able to pay less if I use a credit card.
Yep.
And then you get some people that say like, hey, why can gas stations do that?
Right. I've
'cause you
seen
see
that.
different.
Yeah.
You can if you advertise both prices, but imagine doing that at a restaurant, right? So and what you can do is you can charge a discount, and that's why you see that with the both prices, right? You
Right.
always see a cash discount if you can. But
Yeah, but can you imagine going to a restaurant and they're like, "Hey, if you pay cash, here's what you can
So
pay." If
there's
you pay
one
a card,
restaurant
this
I
is
know of locally that does do that.
Yeah.
Really?
They have it on their menu, and so every time I go there with the kids, I just bring cash
yeah,
because it's a substantial discount to
Yeah.
me, and then it's just a reminder like having served and stuff like that, you always kind of like, oh, let's leave a cash tip just because it's easier for the server. So, but yeah, I've only seen one restaurant in Massachusetts that literally they have their menu, and when you walk in, there's signage saying,
Interesting.
and they have an ATM as well there.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never really thought about it.
It really makes you think. And just back to the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, we were seeing restaurants take up on credit cards in the 60s%, which I was like, oh wow, I can't remember the last time prior to this that I would use cash in a restaurant. But now it's upwards of 90%.
Wow.
Like over 92% of folks are going into a restaurant and using a credit card. So that percentage
no
has
one carries
surged,
cash, right?
We taught people not to carry cash during the pandemic, and
it's so easy not to.
Guess who caught on?
Who?
The credit card
companies.
Yeah. They caught on. They said, oh, and maybe really to add insult to injury, they've upped to their fees on our poor business owners. And I mean, in Massachusetts, upwards of 90% of our restaurants are independently owned restaurants.
Yeah.
So we're not talking. We're talking about small businesses.
Yeah.
And chains are employing our local people too, right? We have chain restaurants, and they're wonderful, and we need those chain restaurants.
Absolutely.
Right. Honestly, I mean, so we notice a lot, like the Longhorn here in Marlborough, 99, like that really does. I mean, and they're great. They're great restaurants.
Absolutely.
They do a great product, but especially for like the visitors that we have coming in with this New England Sports Center, the Olive Garden down on Donald Lynch Boulevard. This stat always blew my mind. Was like, they're one of the largest revenue generators for all of New England. Well, they're one of the top Olive Gardens because of the sports center.
Because of where they're at.
Yeah, because of where they are. So there really is a demand in a market for all the different types of restaurants.
Yeah. Right.
And there really is. All right, so switching gears a little bit, how roughly how many members do you guys have? Is that a number that you guys keep track of, or is it?
Yeah. So it depends on locations and stuff like that. Sometimes as they grow up, but members.
Yep.
We have about 2,000 members. Some of them have multiple locations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so to become a member, are there any limitations, restrictions, guidelines? Do you just have to own a restaurant in Massachusetts, or how does that work?
And you just go to our website, and you can become a member there, but we would really love for you to reach out.
Right.
All of our information is on the website. You can give us a buzz. And it's not just, we also have business partners. So folks that provide services for restaurants.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that, because you said one of the benefits was that they get like I don't want to say a member discount, but is that kind of
sometimes
member
but
perks?
So we have business partners. So those are folks that provide different things to the industry, whether you're selling goods to restaurants, whether you're providing linens to restaurants, whether you're providing energy for restaurants. I mean, there's all different type of folks, whether it's our 401k company, whether it's insurance. We have different other business partners that provide services for restaurants, and you can also become a business partner as a part of the association.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's pretty big.
Yeah, we have everything under one roof for you. Whether we have attorneys, we have HR professionals, we have folks that can help with career development. We have everything there.
You got it all.
Yeah. One-stop shopping.
That's right. Yeah. And I know years ago, we used to. So in Marlborough, we do. MEDC pays for all the trainings for all the restaurants in Marlborough. So your CPR, serve safe tips, all that kind of stuff. We used to partner with you guys years ago to do those. So I know that you guys offer those programs as well.
Absolutely.
Because that's another expense for business owners. Like there's things that you don't really think about, like all the training, all that stuff comes out of either the business owner or the employee, something like that. There's all kinds of hidden costs to owning especially a small business.
Yeah, and now we have allergen training, CPR trainings, serve safe trainings, alcohol trainings, everything that you need. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about what type of advocacy you typically do, but what does that look like? Are you like up back to our old digs? Are you on Beacon Hill knocking on doors?
Sometimes I am. Sometimes I am on Beacon Hill knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm in DC knocking on doors.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes I'm here when our congressional delegation is here. I was recently up in Leominster in a meeting with a bunch of restaurant owners and the congressman up there talking about their needs at a federal level. And yeah, sometimes I'm back up on our old digs on Beacon Hill.
Do we want to show that picture just one more time? There we go.
We look a little better now, though. I mean, we look good then,
I was
too.
gonna say, we looked good then.
I just mean from like an outfit standpoint. I mean, those outfits really scream early 2000s.
For our online, for our audio listeners, there's a
No, don't describe the outfits.
They look great. Remember Clueless?
Remember Clueless? Oh, my gosh. Oh, that really is funny. All right, so we'll get rid of that photo. But do you spend more time with like state advocacy, or is it more federal?
Oh, definitely more state.
More state.
Because we have a National Restaurant Association that does a lot of our federal work, and I work with them very closely. Our whole team works very closely with them, but there are things that need to be pushed to our delegation, and that's when I get involved. But a lot of the work that I do is at a state level, whether it's with the ABCC, whether it's with the Attorney General's office, whether it's with the governor's office and the administration up there, or whether it's with the legislature, House and Senate.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's great.
So we've seen you around lately a lot.
Yeah.
So there's an issue that's going on pretty big, but I think the biggest concern though is that not a lot of people know enough about it, which is why we really wanted to bring you on today to talk about it. Wonderful to hear about all the things that you guys are doing, but this is an issue that really will impact our small businesses here, not only in Marlborough, but in across the Commonwealth, if it was to come to fruition. One of our board members for MEDC, Steve Eulis, is a member of the MRA and really active on this issue. But all of our folks here in Marlborough, our Marlborough Restaurant Association, our mayor actually came out to endorse no on question 5. So we wanted to bring you on to almost educational for folks that might not know about what it is. So can you give us kind of 101? What is question 5?
So start by saying vote no on question 5, right? No. And I want to thank the mayor and the local chamber and you guys for endorsing a no on question 5. But really what question 5 would do is 2 things. The first thing is get rid of the tip credit. And I'll explain what that is afterwards. And the second thing is allow for tip pooling with non-service staff, which is not allowed right now. So we'll go to the first part of the question. Right now, a server or bartender, service staff, is allowed to make a wage of $6.75 an hour that comes from the employer, and the rest of their hourly wage can be made up by tips. Doesn't have to be, but can be made up by tips. But it does have to get up to $15 an hour.
And so how would it get to $15?
Tips.
But if they didn't make it in tips, who has to cover
the owner? They're making $15 an hour. So that's why I said it doesn't have to be $6.75. It could be more if the owner wanted to make it more. But
how often does that happen?
At the end of every shift. So at the end of every shift, a server or bartender or service staff member has to have made $15 an hour per shift.
Okay.
So this out-of-state group from California has come in and said, we don't want it to be that way. And we want it to be that the owner has to pay $15 an hour. And then on top of that, the second part of the question, what they want to happen is they want that tip pool that is only allowed to be shared with service members to be expanded to all staff.
So hold on, let's take a step back. What is a tip pool?
Tip pool is who is allowed to participate in receiving tips. And that might look different in different restaurants. It could be that all the servers and bartenders share. It could be all the servers.
So everyone
could
puts
be
their
all the
tips
bartenders.
into one.
Or it could be that they keep it for themselves. That being said, the tips are not allowed to go to anyone that isn't service staff.
Okay.
So they want to expand the pool of people
Okay.
that are allowed to participate
In tips.
In tips.
So if I'm somebody that knows nothing about this, what would you call it? That when the owner has to make up the difference,
The tip credit.
the tip credit. So
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
know nothing about the tip credit,
Yeah.
and I hear there's a group that comes in and says, well, they should all be making minimum wage.
Yep.
That's going to sound pretty like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
of course you want everyone to make minimum wage. But the reality is most servers are making well above minimum wage, correct?
Right. So servers and bartenders are your highest paid staff members in any restaurant atmosphere. They just are.
Yeah.
And they've worked their way up to being there. It's like any career, right?
Yeah.
And in the back of the house, people have worked their way up too.
Right.
And the tip pool being expanded is really going to affect everyone when it comes to the restaurant atmosphere, right? And how people are getting paid. But what I want to go back to how much money people are getting in and what you said about, oh, well, that sounds good.
Right.
They should be making $15 an hour. We really need to look at other examples, other states, and see where this has happened to say, like, what's going to happen in Massachusetts and how is this going to affect our industry, right?
Because it can have a really serious impact.
Really serious impact.
Yeah.
So folks look at a state like California where this activist group is coming from and say, like, oh, well, they don't have a tip credit in California. True. They've never had a tip credit in California.
Sure.
So this isn't a policy change that they went through. It's always been like this.
Right.
But let's look at how servers and bartenders are paid in California. Servers and bartenders, they make minimum wage in California and they make tips on top of what they're getting. And guess what? Their tips are way less than they are here. And the consumer is still paying probably a higher price as well. So don't think like you're, as
cheaper.
a consumer, you're cheapening out. Like your prices are going to go skyrocket.
Right.
They're going to go way up. You're paying upwards of $20 for a cheeseburger right now. Wait till you get that $50 cheeseburger, right? Like at some point. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it's the money has to come from somewhere, right?
Right.
And to keep your restaurant alive, that prices have to go up, right? So back to the tipping, when you do look at the rates of tipping in California, you're talking 10% and maybe 15%. But really, what shows what's going on is if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, you will see that folks that are in states where there is no tip credit make less per hour compared to a state like Massachusetts.
Well, because people can tip as much. You can tip as much as you want, right?
In either state, you can tip as much as you want, but
in mass, you're
people
more inclined.
tip more because that's what we've been taught
the culture,
to do. The culture, is that of I'm paying.
You tip 20%,
20%,
and if there's any, and then more than that if someone's exceptional, and you also do the thing where, like, if you're working with one server that really has gone above and beyond, or I bring all 4 of my kids and I'm like, you know what, I'm sorry about the mess that you're going to have to.
Yeah.
Like, you want to make sure that the person that's running all over the place is getting that money.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I used to be a server and I would tip out my hostess once in a while optionally, or if people were helping run drinks, like, but to have all of that be forced, that would even feel weird as the consumer, right? Like, I want to be able to give this to them. They went above and beyond, and then that money goes where?
Right.
So and explain a little bit too about and I think we have a graphic too where it can show like this was in, I think it was DC. It's one of your graphics that it was implemented and the impact it had on the restaurant. So can you explain a little bit like what kind of impact would it have on Steve Eulis, so to speak?
So let's talk about DC a little bit because I was going to get there. So DC is the only place where we can look at a district, not a state, but it's a district that has had this policy change, right? And what has happened, and it's not even fully implemented in DC, but when it happened in DC, we have seen a loss in restaurants. The number of restaurants has absolutely gone down.
Yeah.
And
I think there's one other one.
Is there another one?
Well, and there was like a crazy number.
So the job,
yes,
that's
the job
the one,
number. So
that one.
Okay,
this is pretty early on, but we saw a loss in jobs in the DC area, right? Not only because restaurants were
Closing.
closing, but also because restaurant owners, operators were turning to different methods of getting service out to consumers. Those QR codes, right? A lot of people don't want to do this, right? Like if you want to use a QR code, maybe you'll go to a quick serve restaurant. But when you're going to a sit down, full service restaurant, people don't want to sit at a table and use a QR code and just have
phone.
And have someone run the food to them or sit there and order everything on your phone, right?
Right.
They want you're there for the full service experience, right?
Yeah, right.
But that's not what's going on in DC. We're seeing job loss, and at this point, this 2,900 number that you're showing is actually upwards of more like 4,000 people.
Wow.
Jeez.
And it's not.
And that's because the restaurant owners are trying to save money where they can. Is that?
It's not even save money when they can. It's to stay alive.
To stay alive,
right?
Yeah.
They need to do this to keep their operations afloat. And then additionally, what you're seeing happen in DC is service fees. So when folks are saying, okay, we don't have to tip like we did before, there's still a charge on your bill.
Right.
And your service fee is not a tip. The service fee does not have to go to the service staff. Now, maybe your owners do that and make it go there, but they might take some of that and make sure that it goes to the back of the house. They might take some of that and make sure that it goes to their bookkeepers. They might take some of that and make sure that they're making up the difference of the money that they need to stay afloat as well. So that service fee isn't a tip.
I mean, I find this really interesting too, because I have every bartender, server, anybody that I've talked to, restaurant owner, has said, like, it's not broken. Why are we trying to fix something that's not broken?
Right.
And so you have to wonder, like, why do these groups come in from, like, leave us alone? That's pretty much what all the bartenders and service staff and owners are saying. It's not broken. Please stop trying to fix it.
But isn't that what is most important, right? Is the servers and bartenders.
Yeah.
The servers and bartenders who are being affected by this policy change are the ones who are banging down our doors at the MRA, and now there's the Committee to Protect Tips, which is way bigger than the MRA, and we can talk about that a little bit, that is saying, please help us.
Right.
We don't want this policy change. Why are you forcing it against us, people from out of state?
Well, and I think the fear is too that a lot of times, the general public will go to the ballot box and not really understand.
Right.
And the way it's written, it does sound really, oh yeah, that sounds great.
Right.
But we have folks that we've heard from that, had expansion plans.
Yeah.
And they're putting them on hold.
Right.
Because they're like, I don't know how this is going to shake out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So do we have a question?
We do. We had a comment from our friend, President Ossing.
President Ossing. He's just a valued watcher.
He is.
He is.
So he said, good morning, Meredith and Jill and Jess. Vote no on 5. I have not met a bartender, server, or owner that supports this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's right.
Do we want to talk I'd like to talk a little bit about
please, it's your show, whatever.
About what the servers and bartenders are telling us.
Please, let's hear it.
So, we at the beginning of this ballot question, we said to ourselves, like, let's really hear what the servers and bartenders are saying, and not just anecdotally calling us and saying, what am I going to do? How this is maybe even a part-time job that I've decided to do on Friday nights because I walk out and know that I'm going to make a lot more than $15 an hour for the 4 hours I worked. And if this changes, I'm not going to be able to count on those tips anymore. So a poll was conducted, and it was overwhelming.
Really?
Overwhelming what the servers and bartenders were saying to us. That's why we knew from the beginning that this was something that we were going to have to fight for servers and bartenders as well as owners. So 86% of bartenders and servers said the current system works. What is this question? Like, we want nothing to do with this. 88% oppose a tip pool where the tips are shared with non-service staff, and 90% said we believe that we will make less, which is true because we see the data that says on average a server or bartender in the state of California makes $1 less per hour than they do in Massachusetts. That's crazy, right?
Right.
So And this poll that we conducted was geographically diverse, all different type of restaurants, whether it was a family diner
Yep.
to an upscale steakhouse, like and everywhere in between, because we wanted to know what everybody thought about
it.
that. Yeah, and you know, the
Those are
servers and
staggering
bartenders,
numbers.
it's staggering, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why if you talk to your servers or bartenders, they're telling you this because they're understanding how it's going to affect their bottom line. You know, we have servers and bartenders that have come to us and said, I've raised a family. I've put myself through school. I put kids through school. I bought a house with the money I have made from tips, right? We have a member of our association who's really been very loud and proud about No on 5, Doug Bacon, who has told his story, which is I started my restaurant business by being a bartender and saving my tips, right? Like he's the dream, right?
Yeah.
I
gotta meet this guy.
He's the dream, right? He's wonderful.
What's his restaurant?
He's got a few in the Boston area.
Okay.
Yeah. So not in Marlborough, but
maybe we can bring him to Marlborough, right?
He's definitely been here. I know that he's been, we've had a board meeting before at Steve's Place.
Okay.
Yep. So he's definitely been there. We've been to a few restaurants in Marlborough. You guys have some really great places
We sure
here.
do.
Yeah. You know, the Fix,
Yep.
you know, part of Niche Hospitality, they're wonderful. And there's other restaurants too that are members I don't want to be leaving out. You guys have some.
We love them all.
Yeah.
We
would be here all day.
We'd be here all day.
Right? Some great Latino restaurants as well that I've eaten at as well.
Well, we make sure to get around in the restaurant scene, but also so another restaurant owner here in Marlborough, John Logomassini at Chill.
Yeah.
He just hosted a industry night just this week, trying to get the word out, just to make people understand kind of, you know, what this is all about and the impact it would have. Because that's the scary part, is that if it goes through, the impact it could have on all these places that we all love to go out to could be very real. Yeah. Very real.
Yeah, your favorite restaurant might not be there anymore.
Right.
It might just be too much. Yeah, you and I ate at Chill recently. Yeah, it was wonderful.
And we went to Wemmy's recently.
We checked them all out. Right? It's great.
It is. And I think that's one thing that President Ossing just mentioned that a lot of people are starting to do is, if you're unsure, which that's okay if people are still kind of saying, what is this all about? And I'm not really sure how I feel about it. Talk to the people that are serving you. See how those are the people that it would affect, you know, most immediately. So directly talk to them, see what they say.
And if you want to also see what some servers and bartenders are saying, you can go to protecttips.org. That's the committee's website.
So that's not you guys. That's a different.
It's a larger entity. It's the committee that is No on 5.
Yep.
That is trying to protect servers and bartenders' tips.
Yeah.
You can go there to find out more information.
Okay.
Again, it's protecttips.org.
Protecttips.org.
Yeah.
What have we missed? There's so much to this. Is there anything else that you think people really need to know about it, or?
I think the most important thing to know is that this is coming from out of state.
Yeah.
This isn't a group of people in state that are saying this will help us. We want change, right? We're actually hearing the opposite. Like, why you said this, Mayor? Like, why are we changing something that's not broken? You know, and you know, sometimes I hear from folks, well, maybe the tips should be shared with back of the house people. The back of the house staff, for the most part that I've talked to, said, we've chosen not to work for tips. Yeah. We want to work this schedule and this is how we want to be paid, right? And they're getting paid a different rate.
Right.
They don't want this as well. And they know that, you know, if I were a restaurant owner, I would change the way that I'm paying folks, right? Maybe, and this isn't how you have to do it, but maybe you'd say everybody's making $15 an hour and everybody's working for the tips and we're going to share them all. Why not, right?
So a restaurant owner could choose to do that if they wanted to?
If this goes through, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Why wouldn't they, right?
Right.
Because, you know, this would actually make restaurant life more competitive, restaurant to restaurant, because I hear some folks say, well, you know, this restaurant could choose to do whatever they want and the other one doesn't have to. But hey, if I'm a member working in the back of the house and I know that I can be making tips on top down the street, maybe I will go down there, right?
Right.
And this is going to make our restaurants more competitive with one another. They are competitive. I mean, really, back to the beginning of our conversation, the restaurant industry is still coming back from the pandemic.
Well, and they're still struggling to hire too, right? I mean,
That's the numbers.
It's challenging.
Yeah. The labor statistics when you come to the restaurant industry are staggering. They're still not where we were in 2019.
So we're going to do something to pit them against each other, which helps nobody. Right?
I don't think our restaurant industry the owners will ever pit against one another,
Sure.
but it will make them, their staff more competitive with one another and where they go, right? Our restaurant owners and operators, they just really want to see each other succeed, and we've been through too much.
That's what we were talking about earlier, right?
Right. Yeah,
we don't want to lose
working
that
together. Yeah, but those numbers haven't met where we were in 2019, and we're just going to lose more staff in that area. Not only because we might not have so many restaurants, but I've also heard from servers and bartenders. I spoke to 3 the other day who said to me, I will leave my job because I do it on top of what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't be making what I need to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I rather just work more hours in the job that I have than bartend, right?
Well, because right now they're already guaranteed the minimum wage, and then they're getting tips on top of that.
Right.
So that's predictable, and you can kind of feel good about that.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, your servers and bartenders, unless there's like a snowstorm or something like that,
they're going to work.
They're not making minimum wage. What they're going to tell you is, please stop telling me I want to be a minimum wage employee because I'm not a minimum wage employee.
Right.
And I don't want to be one.
I'm
I'm making upwards of 30, 40, sometimes depending on the restaurant, even $50 an hour, right?
Right.
And they don't want this.
They don't want this.
Right.
So what's next? So it goes to the ballot. It's question 5, if we haven't said that yet.
Yeah.
So the general public in Massachusetts will be going to the ballot to vote on this in November.
Yeah, November 5th. It'll be on the ballot. I know sometimes people choose now to vote early.
Yep.
And if you're doing that, you can vote no on 5 then too.
Yeah.
But we really need folks to not only talk to your servers and bartenders, but also talk to your friends and family and say, this is going to hurt your local business, and they've worked really hard to survive, or they are new and they want to keep going,
right?
Or they've been, like I said, or they've been established forever and they want to keep going. So just talk to folks and let people know how bad question 5 is for our whole industry, restaurant, and like restaurants really help businesses and everyone around them.
Oh,
right?
We know that.
100%.
So exactly. That's why this is an economic topic, right?
Absolutely.
An economic development topic. If you want to have economic development in your area, you bring restaurants, you bring breweries, you bring other folks in so they can serve everyone around you, right? The Mass Brewers Guild is part of the committee. They're against this. The local chamber is against this. You guys, like I said before, are against this. Many mayors are against this.
I mean, you're right. Like we talk all the time about it's this idea of live, work, play, right? So the reason that we're able to draw companies and attract them to Marlborough is because we have the whole picture, right? So a company is never going to choose your community if their employees will have nothing to do once they get there.
Right.
People want to come to work and be able to go to lunch or be able to get their dry cleaning done or stop and get gas on the way to the highway, whatever it is. So all of those things really do play a role in business attraction, retention, economic development, all of those things, not to mention the meals tax here in Marlborough.
If you like
that's another huge one.
Like our fields and our
parks and fields, right. So all those things it's all part of the bigger picture.
And you guys have Apex, you have 110 Grill, and you have Tutorial over there. You guys have a lot of good restaurants that are supporting everyone here.
Right.
So
we just heard recently too, for years, some of our bigger companies have been saying, we need some like upscale options. White tablecloth. Yes. That was always the thing. White tablecloth. And we used to tell our former mayor, Vigent, it's not really white tablecloth that they're looking for. It's more of a unique dining experience, and we just recently added a white tablecloth restaurant to the downtown area, which they don't actually have white tablecloths, but it's that upscale.
It's got that vibe.
It's the upscale. And we've heard recently that some of our larger companies are booking at Wemmy's, and so to your point, it is absolutely something that companies are looking for when they're choosing a location. They want to make sure that they have those options.
Right.
They have the 110 grill, but they also have the Wemmys or everything in between.
Right.
So this is great.
Yeah.
This has been a really good conversation. We're out of time. It always
my God.
happens. We bump up against it. But before we let you go, can you just tell people where can they find more information?
Yep.
Who should they reach out to if they want to learn more? Things like that.
Go to protecttips.org.
Okay.
And if you're a restaurant owner, go to protectmassrestaurants.com. There's a lot of information there too. There's information that you can download for your restaurants. If you want to reach out to me at the MRA, you can do so as well. And I'm happy to help you anytime.
Yeah.
My email address is jmuradian@mra.org.
Easy enough.
Yep. Oh, sorry. At massrestaurant.org. I'm giving out the wrong email address. Whatever.
We'll put the right one in there.
You can post the right one, but JMuradian, you guys will spell it.
We'll do that.
At massrestaurant.org. And I'm happy to give you more information as well. And we will help you with anything that you need.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And also any Marlborough restaurateurs that are watching, or residents, or anybody that's looking for more information, Lindsay Jowrick in our office here at MEDC is kind of our hospitality guru. She does all the things restaurants and hotels and visitors and fun. So any information you're looking for here in Marlborough too, we're happy to be a conduit as well. So with all of that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 46 of Exploring Economic Development with MEDC. And I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.